So, a reminder before the lesson begins, make sure you're taking notes and you're listening and watching for the keyword or phrase.
Let's get to it.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about lesson 1 of unit 2 for our functions unit. Our aim today is how can we find the relationship between two variables when using a graph? And we have to remember what those variables are. We have our independent variable, which is our x variable. And then we have our y, our output, or our dependent variable. Whatever y is has to be based on the value of x. So when you have the relationship between x and y and it is increasing, we have as x increases, y increases. So a good example of this would be, again, we're going to draw our coordinate plane. Our x is horizontal and our y is vertical. If we talk about age increases over time. So then we have an increasing relationship. So age increases over time. If the relationship is decreasing, then as we increase x, y actually decreases. So here we could use our x and our y. As we go towards winter, the temperature is going to decrease as time goes on. So that would be your decreasing relationship between the two variables. Something that's constant is not going to change. So it's horizontal, or it's a horizontal line. And as x increases, y stays the same. And something like that will look like this. So we have increasing, decreasing, and constant relationships. Then we need to talk about relationships where they're linear and nonlinear. So linear relationships are straight lines. We've seen this before last year. So we have increasing, decreasing, constant, and then we have vertical lines. Again, all straight lines that represent the relationship between x and y. A non-linear relationship is not going to be a straight line, so not a straight line. So something that's not a straight line, we're talking about curves, shapes. We're going to be talking about quadratic functions and exponential functions, cubic functions, square root. So quadratic functions look like a U. Absolute value, which we learned last year and even before that, actually are in the shape of a V. So those are not straight lines. Those are shapes or curves. Okay, so as I mentioned before, input are all of your x values. This is going to be what is entered into the relationship or the function. Then we have output. Output is what is the result of putting in your input. So your y values are going to be your output. your domain is your inputs and your x values. So we're talking about our x-axis in a coordinate plane. That is your domain, all your x values. Your range are your y values or your outputs. And that is your y-axis on a coordinate plane. Okay, so now let's apply these descriptions of functions and relationships to an actual situation. So you see this graph on the left. The situation is that a roller coaster park is open from May to October each year. The graph shows the number of people who visited the park over its season. So people are going to go over here. And if you want, you can label your coordinate plane, X and Y. In part A, segment 1, so they're referring to this part, from May to June, shows that attendance during the opening weeks of the park season stayed constant. Describe what segment 2 shows. So now we're looking at segment 2. So if the horizontal line at segment 1 is constant, then from June to July, we need to describe what happens with the attendance and the number of people who are visiting the park. So if you look at segment 2, it's an increasing portion. So what you can say is that there is an increase in the number of visitors, or the number of visitors is increasing between June and July. All right, so the next question, part B, they're asking in which segment is the attendance decreasing? So you're going to give a possible examination for why there is a decrease in attendance, or maybe a guess to why there was a decrease in attendance. All right, so here we have segments 4 and 5 are both decreasing. Those are the only ones that are decreasing. If you look at segment 3, it's still increasing. So you couldn't use that one. So here would be segment 4 and 5. A possible reason why, maybe it got too cold, weather got colder. If you look at the months, here we have July, August, September. So you know what? Kids are going back to school. And the summer is over. So these are just some predictions as to why, or guesses as to why there was that decrease there. Okay, so let's try the second problem. Try and describe each segment yourself and check back for the answer. So what we call these are function stories, where they're basically using graphs and relationships to tell a story. So here we have a bus driver will be driving the school's math team all around Queens this Saturday. His day will start at the bus depot, where the team will be dropped off. The bus depot is 2 miles away from the school. The driver's schedule is mapped and is as follows. So there's 2 math competitions in the morning. They go to Wendy's for lunch. They have 1 more math competition in the afternoon, and then he drops the students off at school. So each segment, and there's 9 segments, there's a description that you have to give for each segment relating from the graph to the situation. So the first one, I know there's 2 competitions in the morning. We already know the students are getting dropped off at the bus depot, so he doesn't have to go anywhere. So segment 1 is drive to the first competition. So he drives to the competition. The second step, or the second segment, is constant. So if he's not moving and he's not going anywhere, he has to be at that first competition. He's probably just waiting there for the students to finish. The third segment, we have 2 math competitions in the morning, so that must be driving to the second competition. The fourth segment is probably when they're at the second competition and he has to wait for them. The fifth segment, well, this is done. They went to the 2 math competitions. They're going to Wendy's, so they must be driving to Wendy's. And then segment 6 must be lunch at Wendy's. 7th segment, 8 probably is the third competition. And then the last segment is just driving back to school. And that is our function story and how we're going to use our descriptions to just to explain the relationship between graph or variables on a graph. If you have any questions, please let me know. Make sure you finish your classwork. Email me, let me know, write questions down if you forget. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.